and there to Lord's Day number 37. As is our habit, let me read the question, present it, and then would you respond with me with the answer. But may we swear reverently by the name of God? Yes, when the magistrate requires it, or when it may be needful otherwise, to maintain and promote fidelity and truth to the glory of God and our neighbor's good. For such an oath is grounded in God's word, and therefore was rightly used by the saints in the Old and the New Testaments. May we swear by the saints or by any other creatures? No, for a lawful oath is calling upon God that he, as the only searcher of hearts, may bear witness to the truth and punish me if I swear falsely, which honor is due to no creature. In Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 20, there we go. You shall fear Yahweh your God, and you shall serve him, and to him you shall hold fast, and take oaths in his name, recognizing that you are before him always, and that he is watching, and that because he is watching, he is holding you to the truth that you are supposed to be telling, because he is truth itself, and we are supposed to be emulating him in our truthfulness. So we are calling on God's name, and we may do so if we do so reverently. In the past weeks, we've been talking about calling on God's name irreverently. And so here is a time when we are calling on God's name and saying, this is what ought to be done, this is what we are promising to do, and we are asking God to hold us to that. In Hebrews chapter 6, this is stated to us. When God made a promise to Abraham, because he could swear by no one greater, he swore by himself, saying, surely blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply you. And so after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. For men indeed swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is to them an end of all dispute, thus determining to show more abundantly to the heirs of promise the immutability of his counsel, he confirmed it by an oath, so that by two immutable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we might have consolation, who have fled for refuge to lay hold of the hope set before us. So here's God, who's only truth, tells truth only, and should never be doubted in the truth he's telling. But he says to Abraham, just to reassure you, I'm calling myself to witness that I'm telling you the truth about the promises that I am making to you about your descendants and about what I intend to do. So the example that's set before us is God takes an oath when it's for our good. He takes an oath when it's something that is incredible or something that we cannot verify. And he gives that authority as well to the civil magistrate, because the civil magistrate is set in a position where he has to decide who's telling the truth in a court case. And he's not omniscient. So he's asking us to remind ourselves and to stand before God and say, I'm telling the truth, so that the magistrate can say, if there's any hesitation here, we have a problem. So the magistrate can look more closely. And so the magistrate is given that privilege. Now the magistrate, remember please, he's the king. He's also the priest. Well, priest is also like the magistrate, and he isn't the magistrate. But in Israel's history and in Israel's government, the king governed all of the things of normal life. And there was only one person in the kingdom that could tell the king he was wrong. And that was a prophet that God sent. The priest decided what sin was and what righteousness was, and he had to tell the people that. and he had to teach it. And if someone disagreed with him, well, they had to stand before God. If somebody said to him that he was wrong, and if he was wrong, there was one person in the kingdom who could come and who could call the priest down and correct him. And that was the prophet that was sent by God. And so in the oath, what we are doing, or what someone is doing, is calling on God to send someone designated, some perhaps thought, some whatever, by God's grace designated, to make sure that the magistrate or the priest was correct in his judgment. And God says, I even did that with Abraham. And so that is why it is appropriate for you to ask an oath under certain circumstances. The next question, however, is a little different. In Genesis 21, verse 22. It came to pass at that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me by God that you will not deal falsely with me, or with my offspring, or with my posterity, but that according to the kindness that I have done to you, you will do to me, and to the land in which you have lived. And Abraham said, I will swear. Then Abraham rebuked Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had seized. And Abimelech said, I didn't know about this thing. You did not tell me of it. This is the first, I did not hear of it till today. Then Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said, what is the meaning of these ewe lambs? He said, you will take these lambs from my hand, that they may be the witness that I have dug this well. Therefore they call that place Witness. And thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. So Abraham said, here's the place where we have made this covenant in order to defend his posterity against the possibility that the Philistines would say, no, we can do to you whatever we want. Your king said this. He said it before the God that we worship, the God who is. And so even the civil magistrate, even the one civil magistrate who is not serving God, needs to be called to account. And so God has provided a means for calling him to account, the calling of God to step in and do it, a just oath. May we swear by saints or any other creatures? Well, in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 23, moreover, if I call God as witness against my soul, I call God as witness against my soul, that to spare you I came no more to Corinth, that we may, not that we have dominion over your faith, but are fellow workers for your joy, for by faith you stand. Here's Paul. He's talking to the people in Corinth who are in the church, and he calls God as witness against himself. He could have called the governor of Corinth or the Roman emperor, but he called the only magistrate there really is. He called the only magistrate who has all power. And so he called on God lawfully, that is the only searcher of hearts. He would bear witness to the truth of what Paul was saying. So Paul was having opportunity to ask others or to call on others, didn't. He called on God where he belonged. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 33 and following, Jesus forbids oaths. You have heard it said to those who were of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Nor shall you swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your yes be yes, and your no, no, for whatever is more than this is from the evil one. So anyone you call on to witness, you're just asking for something that God said you're not supposed to do, and you're setting yourself up to say to God, you're not the final witness. I'm calling someone else to be the final witness. I'm rejecting your authority. I'm rejecting your place. No creature can take God's place. Not how dearly we hold to them, not how intimate they are with us. No creature can take God's place. No idea or no imagination can take God's place. And so when we swear an oath, it can only be by the God who is. Anything else is from sin. The sin is the rejection of God as the authority.